So why do we expect teams to be creative in the first place, right? So,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
whose idea was that?
We just outlined a disaster, basically, right? I mean, so the question is, why do people bother at all? I mean, it's such a popular technique, and it's so widely used. What's going on?
I mean, to me, in many organizations, brainstorming equals creativity, right? We come together in a group, we bounce ideas. That's creativity. I mean, it's often fundamentally perceived as a team activity.
Yeah, so if we're going through this exercise, then creative ideas must be happening, right? Or else we wouldn't be doing it.
Exactly.
So it's circular logic. And I think also there's a social element that makes it fun, right? And so we see a lot of, like when I teach this in class sometimes, where you ask people to brainstorm as individuals and then combine ideas, and then you ask people to do it as a group.
Yeah.
And the people who are working alone look, really sad about it. And the people who are working in groups, even though they end up not being particularly good,
they like it.
They loved it, right? There was a conversation, there was laughter, they got to connect socially. And so I think teams fill all of these needs that are good, but not necessarily ones that are conducive to creativity.
And we can confuse sometimes, I think, the joy, the fun, the laughter with the creativity.
Right.
Right? I mean, I think we have a view of what creativity is that's much more about having these moments and exciting feelings.
Right.
And the joy and the fun and all that feels that way.
Yeah, so if we're having fun, it must equal
be creative.
creativity. Because creativity is inherently fun. Right, so all of these sort of failures of logic that lead people to overuse teams. And I think also in organizational settings, there are benefits for to using these brainstorming teams that maybe have nothing to do with actually generating ideas.
Sure. We need to get people on board, and if they were there in the meeting where it happened, then they're more likely to feel committed to it, and they had an opportunity to speak up. Right.
Those are things that you're developing buy-in.
Yep.
Another thing, you're developing a collective memory for solutions that are shared, and then I remember those maybe for later, like we saw with the failed adhesive. If we don't interact, we don't remember solutions that may crop up later as being very important. So there are some benefits as well.
Yeah, but I guess do we feel as if the ideas are better because we formed it together in a group than if we formed it individually? Because you get that feedback.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Is that we go through this process of I like that idea, or I have one like it too, and then so we're in a
social
sense
approval.
The teams are a vehicle for that, especially if they're used in the context of this team player mentality that we're taught to adhere to, right? In which I'm not supposed to criticize you, and we're all supposed to fit in and be happy and support each other, which is nice. Maybe it feels good, but for creativity, maybe not such a good thing.
So I guess what I'm getting, and there are organizations I think that are famous for using teams for creativity, right?
Yeah.
I guess the one that always comes to mind is IDEO, right? That got really well known for bringing together groups of people and having enormous numbers of sticky notes and
and even they're to me a bit cynical about using teams too, because what they say is that, well, we use them to impress our clients and teach our clients about our culture, right? And so there is an added layer there that it's not just a technique for creativity. It's really it's a political kind of consideration as well.
It's a social influence approach.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Look at us, we're dazzling.
Right.
Now go away while we work individually to get this done. No,
Right.
That's how they work. But there's an element, right, where it's not all about what happens in the room with the team.
Right. So hopefully, even though you might be tempted to over-rely on teams, at least we've convinced you that you should be somewhat skeptical about whether or not it's a useful exercise.
So overconfidence, conformity,
blind obedience,
polarization.
Right. Remaining silent when there are major problems in your team that really need to be addressed. That doesn't sound really like the picture of a creative group, right?
We're awesome.
So we've delved deep into the dark side, right? And I guess this begs the question of why do we feel creative in teams at all? Like, what how is that our perception so at odds with the reality of what's going
The
on?
hurdles here are immense. I mean,
Yeah.
just even the basic logistics, right?
Right.
Of me talking and not at the same time that you're talking.
Right, and I
has
have
an
to sit here
effect.
trying to remember my idea while I'm listening to you. Right, and groups even make you lazy, right? Because you
Right.
feel like no one's really tracking your effort, so all kinds of problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
But yet we
Right.
feel like we're super creative when we get together in teams, right? We often feel great.
right, and so I think there are some, reasons for that. One is that we just like to interact
Yeah,
with
it's
people.
fun.
It's a social activity. We laugh. We share ideas.
Right.
What could go wrong, right? And
Time flies, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just,
right.
it was a breeze, right?
and we spend, we're overconfident because we are complimenting each other's ideas usually and saying, that's a great idea. So I think there are a lot of reasons why the reality is so different from what our perception of it is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really hard to get people to think about how to compose teams in a way that makes sense and how to really work hard to address these problems.
Clearly, we're going to have to fight some of our typical tendencies of how to operate in a team in
Right.
the time when we want our team not to just get it done,
Yeah.
but do something different.
Right.
Right? And take a new perspective and enable creativity in a new direction.